New Zealand, this. Crossing New Zealand in 1 or 2 days.
Why do I do it? Because I love it.
3, 2, 1, go!
Welcome to the Kathmandu Coast to Coast podcast. This year, the 40th anniversary. Tonight's episode is brought to you by Team CP, your endurance coaching specialists. My name is Matt Sherwood, and I'm going to be taking up the reins tonight from your normal host, Angus Petrie, who's currently busy, and we're getting excited about the 40th anniversary of this iconic race. Welcome to our team captain, Richard Greer, who will be interviewing our fantastic guests and sharing his knowledge of the race over the last maybe not 40 years, but certainly plenty of those.
Yeah, good stuff.
How are you going,
mate? Thanks. Yeah, really good. Thanks. Thanks for the intro. It's good to be back for season 3 of the Coast to Coast podcast. Thanks for sitting the hot seat for us. You're a bit of a founding member of the CP media team from, I don't know, back in 2014 or so, when we sort of running around the place trying to support, jump out of the bushes and cheer people on.
Yeah, no, and I guess that same enthusiasm hasn't gone away either. I mean, it's such a cool event. Good to see people out there, people going flat out, people just there to enjoy themselves, people to finish the race, just so many elements. It's just such a cool place to be on the first weekend in February. Yeah,
that's right. And it is about sharing people's stories as well, isn't it? That's a big part of what we're up to. So really cool to be a part of that.
Most definitely, yeah. So I guess my background around the Coast to Coast is that I've raced the event as the 2-day and the 1-day individual. Probably enjoyed the 1-day more. You don't have to sleep, so that's quite good. But more recently been involved in Team CP and the support crew side of things, getting international athletes. They arrive, we get them organised, get them from one side of the country to the other, as well as just kind of help people out around the place that are a little unsure on things and all those sorts of things. So, being from Christchurch, we're really lucky to have this iconic event on our back doorstep. So we probably don't know how lucky we are, really. So that's great. So again, this year I'll be out there waving the Team CP flag, helping out people, moving boats, moving bikes, picking things up, giving people a hug, giving people a high five, pushing food into people, and all those things that kind of happen behind the scenes. So how about you, Rich?
Yeah, good. Yeah, I just want a quick question here. What's your hug to high five ratio generally? Like, how much love do you need to give out versus yeehas?
It tends to change over the course of the day. Especially I guess I've been involved more with the 1-day athletes. So there's lots of high fives at the start of the day, a few hugs kind of near the kind of end of the day, and then just you're all good. Get on the bike. We'll be all good to see you at the finish line, and then back into high fives again. So it's probably 50-50 actually, but maybe 51-49.
Yeah,
there's always a hug and a high five at the finish line.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. Yeah, so I'll be back again. I've done the 2-day. I've been coaching, supporting. I've done all sorts of different angles of the event in the last couple of years. Gone back to kind of do the 2-day competitively, and I've managed to get second in the last 2-day events. First old man across the line, but second overall, which actually takes me to 3 second places in the 2-day, which is a fantastic place to be. They say it's a great place to be more motivated because you don't sit on your laurels because there's always some character that's better. So it had some really awesome. It's been so much fun to be back and kind of just being competitive and pushing myself as an athlete. So I've actually just confirmed that I'm going to line up for the 2-day to go and give it another crack. So that's pretty exciting.
Nice work. Yeah, well, I guess I was there last year to work behind the scenes with you and push you in your boat and push you on your bike and all those sorts of things. And I know how hard you race. But I guess that's the latter part of the event. Who have we got on the show tonight?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so super excited tonight. We're talking about the 40th anniversary. That's what tonight is all about in the lead into the 40th anniversary of the event from the first one that happened way back in 1983. So we've got Joe Sheriff. So super excited to have a chat to him. He was the inaugural winner of the Coast to Coast back in 1983. 79 entrants lined up on Kumara Beach and 77 finished. 28 team competitors and 49 individuals. Joe's lining up for the 2-day again, 40 years after that initial adventure across the Southern Alps from Kumara to Christchurch. So really looking forward to having a chat with him. We're also going to chat with Rob Howarth. Rob is an Auckland-based kayak coach, long-time supporter of the Kathmandu Coast to Coast and just basically multi-sport and people in general. Really looking forward to catch up with Rob to find more about the Coast to Coast community and the support that's out there to help you guys achieve your race day goal, depending on no matter where you are, effectively. And we're going to finish up the show with Sophie Beaumont and Nicole Lloyd. So they are going to round out the show with us. They're lining up for their first crack at the 2-day Tandem Team Section. It's been on their bucket list for a while, and with some cancelled COVID travel plans, they felt that it's time to really challenge themselves and have a crack at the Kathmandu Coast to Coast. So we're going to follow them through their journey, starting, obviously it's already started, but sort of the final 5 months through into race day. So yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how they progress and sharing their stories, which will hopefully be able to help you guys out that are watching and listening to this podcast as we go.
Yeah, a really good range of experiences, I guess, of people that we're going to cover tonight. So that's really cool. Any other public service announcements for this evening on what's going up and going on around the place with the event and what we're offering?
Yeah, so September 1, the mountain run ballot opened today. So you don't have to rush too much, but you've got a week to get your name on the list. And then basically it's drawn out of the hat on the 10th of September. So I think that's like next Friday. So you've got about a week to get your name on the name down. So that's, I guess, the first key thing that's kind of happening. We've also got our Coast to Coast skills workshop that's coming up as well. We've kind of held off for pushing this one too much, just with the different levels of COVID and things, but we're going to have a crack at it. Level 2 will mean that we'll be able to go with it. So that is that's coming up on the 17th and 18th of September. So myself and Team CP coaches Fiona Stenchman and Kate Crook, also with Sam Manson, who got the second and the longest day. Sam is going to help us with our kayaking on the river, and then we're also going to do some rock running and some biking skills and all that sort of stuff. So if you're a first timer, that's going to happen in a couple of weeks' time. So let us know if you want to know more about that, which will be really good. And we run a competition not too long ago, and the winner of a free entry to that is Katrina Best. So congratulations, Katrina.
Well done. Really, I mean, that's really cool because all those people have been involved in the event and they've raced it. We know Sam goes pretty hard, and it'd be great to see him out helping people on and passing his experience on. And I guess a really good time in the year for people just to kind of start building those skills up. It's not all about running fast and eating properly. There's just so many skills that you need to develop in every discipline for this event. So get into it and learn what learn what you don't know, and so that when race day comes around, you're all ready and primed to go.
Yeah, good stuff. Hey, I just want to kick off, since this is sort of our first run into the podcast through into the 40th anniversary. I just want to run a quick brief history of the event. So I've got some bullet points here. So Coast to Coast was a brainchild of Robin Judkins in 1982. So 1982, a year before, 11 of his mates pioneered the course just to see if it would work. The first official race was held in a year later, 26th and 27th of February in 1983. He planned for a field of 35 and 79 people showed up. It was a lot more relaxed back in the day, which we're going to hear a little bit more as we go throughout that. In 1984, 139 people turned up. And obviously it's grown and grown and grown from there. Longest day arrived in 1987. So as a way just to basically continue to challenge people. Before that, it was just the 2-day event. 2013, Robin Judkins sold the Coast to Coast to Trojan Holdings, and he is still involved as ambassador, and you'll see him on the start line, at the finish line, floating around. Richard Usher took up the race director following that and made some sort of key adjustments around the event. One key one being a different run into Christchurch and going out to New Brighton opposed to Sumner, which actually it's almost exactly the same distance. The distance is 500 meters shorter, the bike ride, than what it used to be. So that's pretty impressive. Yeah, and no traffic lights, which was the key change. And then Glenn Curry took over from Richard 3 years ago and has continued to build and develop that event to what it is today. And in essence, is exactly the same course that was run over 40 years ago, which is pretty cool. Yeah.
And apart from, I guess, a couple of small changes in the middle, I mean, you say that the race has changed, and I guess with health and safety and just the way the event has grown in numbers, I can remember one of my first memories of the race was about 2001. I think I helped a friend out do the longest day, and the transition area at that point in time was in that big siding just by the Deception Bridge, and on the road there was trains coming past. At 6 o'clock in the morning, road was open. It was almost carnage, but just the atmosphere was just so cool. And then they kind of developed that bull ring at Aiken's Corner, and all good reasons why the race has developed and all those sorts of things. But yeah, I'm really looking to hear what Joe has to say, because I'm sure he has some stories of the first few years of the race. That's for sure. So
should we bring them to the show, Matt?
Yeah, sure thing. Hey Joe, how's it going?
Yeah, hello.
So almost 40 years ago, you lined up on the start line. Did you have hair then?
Yes, I had quite a bit of hair then, even had to cut it occasionally.
Fantastic, Joe. Joe, how did you find out about the Coast to Coast? And I guess it must have been 1982 when you found out about it.
Yeah, well, I was out here. I was come out here from Britain to finishing my training as an anaesthetist, and it was pretty common to do the last year of training overseas. Folk from here go over to Britain and the States, and I chose New Zealand and was working in Dunedin. And one of my senior colleagues there was Dave Pilditch, who at that stage had done all of Judkins's races, the Alpine Ironman and the Powder 8s and things. Yes. And I was keen on investigating these rivers that I could see on the map, these great big Canterbury braided rivers, and went off with him and the Otago Kayak Club and did those, and through that heard about the Coast to Coast and thought, that sounds fun. Let's give it a go.
Yeah, good. So what made you actually want to enter it? Was it just the sense of adventure and I'd like to go and see if I can?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I was a pretty useless kayaker, and I'd done quite a lot of bike touring, and fortuitously actually had what was actually quite a good race bike. But I'd done a lot of mountain running in UK, mainly off track stuff involving navigating. They are a pretty good track record in the Carrymore Mountain Marathon. Right, my Gilbert and I, we never won it, but we were up at the sharp end for about sort of 4 or 5 years in a row, and that sort of held me in good stead.
Yes, yeah, fantastic. So, in terms of the 1983 event, can you describe what that was like, both the course and the event itself? Because obviously we know it's all changed quite a bit, but just share what it was like back then.
Well, the lining up on the start was pretty much the same. I had very little idea of what I was actually letting myself in for. I'd looked at maps and that sort of thing, and I'd had a wee look just at the Deception, just about the first kilometre, sort of trying to suss out what might be a good route about 3 days before the event. But apart from that, it was all a mystery. As I say, we all camped on the race course and went down to the start and got started. And at that time, for that year, and certainly it was in the second year as well, the support crew could assist with the transition from the run up from the beach onto the bike. Okay. And the transition was pretty much where you come out of the track onto the main road. I see. There was no great long lengthy road run to get onto your bike. Yeah. I can see why they moved it for safety reasons, but it certainly made less running and more riding. Yes. Yeah. And so we got there in the great sprint, and the support cars all trundled past us. Yeah. Although the second year, 84, there were more people in it, more congestion, and quite a lot of riders got to the Deception Bridge before their support crews. That caused a bit of consternation. that makes it, and that's all part of the event growing and learning and sussing out and trying to improve in those early years. Yeah, I think it was after that he chased everyone up to all the support crews up to be ready and waiting up there beforehand. Yep. How many times have you done the event? I was trying to top that up. I think I've started. It's either 12 or 13. As what happened was, I did the first one, won it, went back to the job I got lined up in UK, but came back here again and did the second one. Pretty disaster. I think I was 17th or something, but trying to train in winter, holding down a full-time job is a bit harder than training in summer in New Zealand when you haven't got a job, because I managed to finish work in Dunedin at the beginning of December, and managed to put off going back to work in UK until sometime about the middle of March, partly to do the Coast to Coast, and also I had the good excuse that I was presenting a paper at a conference at the beginning of February in Perth, so I sort of used that as an excuse to not go back to UK. And so I was just floating around doing kayak trips, tramping, bit of sea kayaking, and jumping on the bike and riding 60k or so every so often. So it turned out it was really good training for it, but I was really just on holiday.
Yeah, fantastic. 40 years ago, who would have thought 40 years ago you went and did this race across the middle of the South Island, and now 40 years later you're talking to me on a podcast about that experience. Over those and all those number of years you've gone back to do the event, etc., how has it shaped and changed your life from then, and had not mostly changed, but had an effect on your life?
Well, it's always been there, always been a sort of a reminder, and I've sort of felt part of it. But in fact, I actually did very little for the next 20 years. As I went back to UK, got stuck into the job there, wasn't coming back here, was involved with things, orienteering and say work, and got into some mountain rescue, and trained and ran a search dog for a number of years. And just wasn't thinking multisport. Of course, there wasn't really a multisport scene there. Juckins had a go at it, but that didn't really come off. But then I emigrated back here in '91, and I'd always had a hankering to do the 2-day. It was obvious off the first 2 years that it could be done in one day. So I'd always wanted to do the 1 day. So that was an opportunity, and borrowed a kayak and tried to do some training, and pulled the calf muscle, so I was hobbling somewhat horribly, but then entered and did it. But that was one of the very few years when it got washed out. Oh, no. And the 2-day people had an absolute epic on the mountain run, with people being rescued by helicopters all over the place. And so for the 1 day, they canned both the mountain run and the kayak, and so we ran over Arthur's Pass, and then jumped on the bike at Klondike Corner and rode all the way to Sumner.
Bike to Christchurch,
which was a fairly long bike ride.
Completely sick of your bike by the end of that.
And then I entered the following year, but work went absolutely crazy, and so I was busy with family, still involved in search and rescue, and had to flag that one, and just didn't do anything for another sort of 10 years. And then I had been thinking about trying to get a bit fitter, and hadn't completely excluded the idea of doing it again. And got this phone call from the Southland Times. Rang up, say, can you just confirm the press release that Mr. Judkins has put out, that you're a definite entry for the 20th? As Robin was scrabbling around trying to get as many of the first timers to do the 20th as he could. No, I think it ended up with at least half a dozen of us doing it. But I got involved. I sort of went out 1 or 2 long runs, and joined in with the Southland Multisport Club, which was really strong then. They were fantastic, doing training trips with them, and ended up doing it, and was so disgusted at the time I did, which I think was about 16 hours or something, that I thought, gotta have another go. And
there you go. That's how you
next year was better, but I've got to have another go. And I think I did it for about the next 8 years, just consecutively, and eventually managed to beat my original time by half an hour.
Yeah, so good. That's awesome. You're back for 2022. What are you most looking forward to this time around?
Oh, getting to the finish.
Yep. How's the body?
It'll be good to do it. I think assuming I do even get to the start line, I think I'm going to be exceedingly slow. as I do quite a lot of mountain biking, but very little road biking. But that's not too much of a change. Running, I've pretty well given up running completely, apart from sort of hobbling occasionally in orienteering races. And that's been on the back burner for the last couple of months. I pulled a muscle in Queen's birthday weekend, pulled a hamstring, and that still hasn't recovered. But I'm trying to hobble a little bit. And again, haven't done a lot of kayaking. We got a dog 5 years ago, and she's not really very compatible with going kayaking, so we're more likely to hop on the mountain bike or go for a walk. So I'm going to have to do a bit of work at that.
Yeah, it sounds a bit similar. Sorry, Joe. It sounds similar to your preparation for the first event, actually, this year's preparation.
Yeah, at least I haven't got a job to hold down now like that. But being well and truly retired, but. Unfortunately, all the voluntary things tend to take almost as much time as I draw maps for orienteering, and are very heavily involved in the mountain bike track scene here, particularly sort of building and advocating for tracks. So I'm probably just about as busy and occupied as when I was working.
Yeah, good job.
So, Joe, there's been a lot of innovations and development, I guess, both in terms of equipment and gear and the way people I guess, approach the race. What was something that you kind of felt most valuable that you either had to make yourself or you bought something straight out of the shop and then had to kind of cut it to bits because it wasn't quite right?
Well, I mentioned the bike before. I was really lucky with that, as I got this Peugeot, which is a fairly steep frame angle. It was actually sold as a Criterion bike. Which was just perfect for it, and it had the tiny little skinny tires that we all have now. But that was in the era when the sort of the pro cyclists had the stitch-on, glue-on tubular tires, and everyone else was on fat 27-inch, 1.25-inch tires. And this had the Mavic 700C wheels with the tiny little skinny tires. So that was a good start. And then I hit really lucky with the kayak. And unfortunately, I can't remember what the brand was. But this friend Dave Pilditch managed to borrow it for me to then lend on to me. As most people then were in the fiberglass Olymps, as that's what everyone had, and that's what everyone paddled rivers with. There were a few guys in downriver races, which included Graham Dingle and my friend Dave Pilditch. And then there was a scattering of people on surf skis, and one guy in a Nord cap, I recall. I don't know who it was, but quite a memorable bright green Nord cap. And then Dave lent me this thing, which was probably not that dissimilar in profile to a Delaware, maybe a little bit fatter. It was quite broad, reasonably long, very stable, and certainly had the edge on the all the people in the sort of slalom type boats. So that was a really
you probably look at all these kayakers now with rudders on their boats and go, "What's that all about?" We didn't have those.
Rudders. No one had heard of rudders then. And although the one downside of it was fairly heavy and it leaked. So I had to stop at least 3 times to empty the water out as I went down. But but it was good, and it was the first river I'd ever paddled down without having a swim.
Cool. All right, we're gonna well, that's great, Joe, and thanks for your kind of insights into where the race kind of was and how it started out, and I guess the atmosphere around the race hasn't really changed, and the camaraderie around all the athletes and competitors and support crews and those sorts of people, and I guess that's what makes it such a cool place to be. Rich, we're going to try something new this time on the podcast. We're going to bring in our other guests in. So welcome along, Rob. Rob's a kayak coach based in Auckland. We're going to bring on, turn his microphone on, sorry, Nicole, who is doing the event this year with Sophie as a first-time tandem team. Rich, I believe you've got a quiz for us first up around Coast to
Yeah,
Coast.
that's right. So if you're listening to this at home or listening to this in the car with somebody else, you need to try and buzz in before the person next to you buzzes in. So we're going to have a crack at here, but obviously have a crack at home and see if you can beat these people. So I've got 5 questions. I'm going to throw at you coast to coast trivia questions. And what you're going to do is you're going to say the word buzz, but also you're going to raise your hand because it's going to be hard amongst the sound to see who's first. So Matt, you're going to eyes peeled to see who's first. So you can say buzz and then hand. Can we just test our buzzers to make sure they all work, please?
Buzz.
Well done, Rob. You're a bit slow there, Joe. That's okay. Warming up. That's right. Okay. So first question: who created the Coast to Coast in 1983?
Buzz.
Well, Rob.
Robin Judkins.
Robin Judkins, it's one to you. Well done, Rob. Okay, 4 more questions to go. Name the 4 rivers that you'll get wet from in the Kathmandu Coast to Coast. Can you
Buzz.
name the 4 rivers? Oh, there we go.
Oh, Sophie, straight in there.
Yes.
Oh, I think I actually know 3. The Deception, the Minga, the Beeley, and the Waimak.
Pretty happy with that. Well done.
Pass,
She's on
yes,
the
well done.
board. Is that a team score, Nicole? Since she's
Absolutely. Yeah, most definitely.
One as well. Good job. Okay, next question. Name the 3 huts that you'll pass on the mountain running stage. 3 huts on the mountain running stage.
Ooh. Two huts that you'll pass?
Can you name one hut?
Buzz.
There we go.
Pretty even there.
Yeah.
So,
What have you got, Rob?
Deception, Goat Pass, and Minga.
Oh, there we go. He's got all 3 of them.
Yeah,
Anyway,
well
that was
done.
what you were going to say as well, wasn't it, Sophie?
Obviously.
Yeah. That's it. Can we get
Sorry,
one
Soph.
each? Okay, right. Joe, is your buzzer still working?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good. Right. This is a bit of a tricky one, but I have given you the answer already. How much shorter is the current bike course than the original?
Buzz.
Buzz.
Oh, then we go with Nicole on that. She was pretty quick.
I think it's 500 meters.
Yeah, well done. Well done.
Oh.
As a school teacher, some good listening going on there, Nicole. Well done. Okay. The last question of the day. Name the location of the kayak put-in. Name
Buzz.
the location
Buzz.
of the kayak put-in.
Buzz.
I think that was Joe, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, we'll go with Joe.
Joe.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mount White Bridge.
Perfect. Well done. Good job.
Look at that.
Well done, team.
Four competitors, 5 questions. Looks like it was a draw.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay,
Awesome.
cool. We're gonna sorry, go Rich.
I was just going to say, Joe, before you head away, I've just got a text message from Blair, who I coach actually, and he said he listened to you. Robert Judkins got you back up on stage in one of the pre-race briefings there, and one thing he said that resonated when you talked. He said that Robin hadn't just created a race. He'd created a lifestyle of change for people, and I think that really resonated, and pretty cool that he's texted me to share that back with you. So yeah, awesome that you said that, and I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Right. Thank you. I think it was actually at the prize giving of Robin's last one.
Awesome.
Yeah,
So
cool.
good.
Thanks, Joe. We're gonna pop you away for now, but I'm sure we'll see you at the start line in some form. Hope you get some running in and some biking and maybe a little bit of kayaking, but certainly go well. And thanks for your insights about the race history tonight.
Right. Thank you.
We're going to also put Sophie and Nicole away, and we'll come back to them later on, which just leaves Rob. Rob, how are you getting on tonight?
Good. Yeah, thanks for having me on, fellas.
No problem at
Fantastic,
all.
Rob. Thanks for joining us, and good to be able to give us some of your valuable time. So you've been involved with this race for how long?
20 years, I guess. I started back in 2001 coaching athletes grade 2 certificates when I worked for Canoe and Kayak North Shore up in Auckland. And so that was the start of the involvement in the race. And then I competed for the first time personally in 2005.
Okay.
And that was my first time that I attended the event as well. So I've been coaching prior to that, but not actually attended the event. So that was the first time down there, and I've been at the event ever since. And I did my 10th competitive event this year.
Brilliant, fantastic. So for all those that are listening and say watching this on the social channels and things like that, as we're talking to Rob, what I want you guys to do that are following this along is that we're going to have a chat to what Rob is up to and what's happening in the Auckland area, but we really want to help connect the Kathmandu Coast to Coast community by sharing any good local events that are on, clubs that are doing great stuff, various cycle, paddle, running groups and things that are going on, or just great places to train that's out your front door and great to be able to share. So if you can jump on, make a comment and share that'll be really awesome just to help connect other people around. As part of that also, we've also got our Team CP Community Connect social media Facebook groups, so they're kind of going on if you're sort of part of our crew as well. So that's another way that we're sort of helping connect various people. So make sure you do that, share us some comments and share what's happening in your local area. So Rob, what's the best thing about the event from your perspective?
Well, I guess two angles for me. One is the actual event itself and the stages of the event, and I'm a kayaker. That's my passion, that's my strength, and the Waimaka area is one of the most magical sections of whitewater you'll paddle in the world, particularly in that grade 2 bracket. It's amazing, and privileged to be able to go and do that on an annual basis, whether I'm racing or training or coaching or whatever. It's pretty cool. Cool. Obviously, the other stages of the event, the mountain run is equally majestical, albeit slightly tougher. But I think the biggest thing for me, I mean, Joe touched on it before, and yourselves, is the people in the event, the camaraderie and everything that goes along with it. That's what's brought me back year on year. To be honest, I've coached countless people over the years, but I've made amazing friends along the way, best mates, and that's the real special thing for me. So, yeah,
good job, awesome. How do you support athletes that are wanting to do the event? What are some of the things that you do?
So I offer a coaching program up here in Auckland, which people can pick and choose from a little bit, I suppose, but a full package is a grade 2 certificate. So the crew that I've got on at the moment, there's about 8 athletes that I work with, so it's just part-time. I have a full-time job, so I have about 8 athletes that I work with, and I started working with those guys and girls back in March, and I run a program over the winter period up here on the Hibiscus Coast where I live, on the Orewa estuary and beach and what have you, and bring people's skill level up in the waters that we have up here. So particularly in the tidal flow to mimic that moving water scenario. And then I take people down onto the Mahaka River in the Hawke's Bay, and I do that in conjunction with Canoe and Kayak Taupo. And we run a 4-day block down on the Mahaka and sign people off for their grade 2. So that's kind of the full package that I do. But in the background of that, if people just want a little bit of flat water instruction on their forwards paddle technique, their wing paddle technique, or they've already got their grade 2, but they feel that they just need a little bit of extra oomph, then I can do all that sort of bespoke training as well. So yeah, and then obviously the other disciplines that sort of come in behind the run and the bike, I sort of motivate the locals up here and get out and do stuff. So yeah,
no, that's awesome. What are some local events, clubs or groups in Auckland that people should get along to? Obviously you've got your own group that you're running, but is there a couple of things that you'd recommend based out of Auckland?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, in terms of clubs up in Auckland, we are pretty lucky. We've got North Shore Canoe Club who focus a lot on K1 flat water paddling, but a great network there, and you pick up some pretty good technique from a club like that with your forwards paddling. And then there's the Waitemata Canoe Multisport Club, and they're pretty active as well. And then there is a Facebook club, I suppose, an informal Facebook group up here called Auckland Multisport NZ. So if you jump on Facebook and have a search of that, if you're not a member, then join that group. That's a really useful social network, and they're out there doing all sorts of stuff and down on the Mahaka running trips and what have you through the year. And then there's other clubs. There's the Manukau Canoe Club, and there's obviously the Wero facility, the man-made whitewater park down in South Auckland, which is a really useful place if you want to lift your skills, particularly in a short boat. So there's all that sort of stuff that is available and up here. So we're pretty lucky, really.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And there's lots of different lead-up events that are great for people to do. It's really important to put your toe on the start line. Coast to Coast shouldn't be the first race you've done for a long time. It's really good to do something prior as well. Is there any sort of, I don't know, Auckland-based event that potentially might spring to mind that you could think of?
Well, there might be one written on my chest. So there's only really one Auckland-based event between now and Coast to Coast for run, bike, kayak, and that is the Rodney Coast Challenge. Now I'm actually a lead sponsor of that event, so I will give it a pretty good plug. It is this year's event is the 7th of November, all being well. We will be at least in level 2, and we can operate for the event in level 2.
Yeah.
And that is a 10K run and a 30K road cycle and a 25K mountain bike and 8K kayak down the Puhoi. So it's short and sharp. It's a real workout, but it's fantastic prep. It gets your all your disciplines connected. It gets your transitions working. It gets your support crew connected to what they're going to have to do down at Coast to Coast. So that's a fantastic one. So if you haven't heard about that, if you Google Rodney Coast Challenge, or the website is rcc.org.nz, and it's a fundraiser for the Cowcop Scouts. Then there's a bunch of really good running races around the scene. One in particular I'll mention, which is run by Total Sport. So big operator. Pretty much everyone will know about Total Sport, but they run an event called the Speight's West Coaster, and that's over at Bethel's Beach, and that is I did write the date down, the 11th of December. And that's a half marathon or a marathon, and it's a bloody good training run, really good. So those are my two picks between now and race day for Coast.
Cool. So looking kind of forward to race day, there's a lot of people, and I guess I've been fortunate enough to go through the gorge on some absolutely fantastic days. Blue sky, nice clear water, nice flow. But then there's also the times when it gets windy as all beat. The river flows can be low. It can be, just what am I doing here? Why am I doing this? What advice would you give to first timers? Because there's always plenty of horror stories, but you never really know until you've experienced it yourself. What sort of advice do you give for the first timers going through this?
Well, I guess if you're building your kayaking skills, layering your build from now, if you haven't already started on your grade 2 journey, then you need to start to think about that now. But build those layers, get on some other rivers between now and Christmas. So like I said, we use the Mohaka River in the Hawke's Bay, but there's other rivers around the North Island for people to use. But get time there, and then I would strongly recommend that you spend some money and take a trip down the Waimak, guided trip in December or January. The Waimak Classic race is in the mix there. So get that under your belt, because there's nothing, the fear of the unknown for people can be a massive barrier. So if you've paddled the Waimak prior, then it certainly takes away that chunk of the fear of the unknown. Sure, you're going to have butterflies in your stomach when you're coming up to some of the rapids, and it's just natural. But yeah, a run down the Waimak first is highly recommended.
Yeah, I was going to add to that too. That good that you say kind of get into it early, because you know, that the Waimak is notorious for being really nice in kind of September, October, and then the nor'westers start, the river flows jump up too high and you can't paddle it, and then everyone starts freaking out because, you know, they get to January and they haven't been down the river. So certainly I'd back up the idea about, you know, get in with the guided trip groups, and they know the river best, and pay your money, you'll have a far better experience. And
absolutely. And for those people that aren't capable of getting on the Waimak on a regular basis, you know, it is a special trip. So particularly North Islanders and you know, Aucklanders, obviously, get out, paddle in gnarly conditions in the ocean, and the safest way to do that is onshore choppy conditions. Doesn't have to be big surf or anything, but just a bit of onshore breeze that's blowing small waves into the beach, and paddle along the beach and then out and then back in, catch a little surf wave and then paddle back along the beach, and just get used to that rough water that's throwing your boat around. Because the more that you can be confident with your bracing skills, your ability to stay upright in those conditions, then, you know, the more confident you're going to be in the experience you're going to have on the Waimak, whatever the river level is.
Yeah, there's some really good comments. I think you should look at being a kayak coach, I reckon. Yeah. Hey, thanks.
There's one other quick thing I'll just mention in terms of things that are available up in Auckland. So one of the skills that people don't necessarily get into is Eskimo rolling. It can be seen as, you know, quite a top end skill. But I'd highly recommend anybody that wants to learn to Eskimo roll. It makes a huge difference to your base skill level, and you'll learn some other stuff while you're doing it. A friend of mine runs an Eskimo roll clinic on a Monday evening at the AUT Millennium Pool in Albany, North Auckland. So if anybody's interested in that and want some more information, then flick me a message on Facebook Messenger, and I'll connect you. But well worthwhile.
Yeah, great. Yep. Thanks for your comments and experience being passed on tonight, Rob.
Pleasure.
Will you be there next year? Did I hear, or not next year?
Oh yeah. No, I'll be there. I'm not racing. I'm crewing for the gang that I'm coaching this year. But I will be driving down and dragging a trailer down there. I've always taken kayaks down for Aucklanders and offered a service for that. So I'll be there. We'll catch up with you fellas.
Yeah, nice. The joys of having a kayak trailer at Coast to Coast, eh? People just don't realise how good it is.
Oh, it's huge.
Nearing 20 boats at 5 o'clock in the morning. It's all chocolates and roses, eh?
Yeah. 5 o'clock. It was 3 o'clock. Jeepers.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Thanks, Rob. Catch you later on.
See you guys.
Good job. Thanks.
Woo! And moving right along. So I guess we've heard from the guys that started. We've heard a bit about coaching and getting skills and that sort of stuff. And it just so happens that our next two guests are hopefully getting excited with their experiences coming up of doing the Tandem Teams 2-day event coming up this year. So Sophie and Nicole, welcome along.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Good job.
Looking pretty relaxed.
Exactly. On that question, I want to get a feel for like the level of how relaxed, nervous, and excited we are. So could you give us a bit of a score potentially, both of you, versus like how nervous we are about this coast to coast thing? Where are you at in terms of, do I think I can do it? Can you give us a score out of 10?
I'll just jump in there too and say I want to score now, and probably the score you would have had like 45 minutes ago.
Yeah, true.
I think 45 minutes ago I would have been a 10 for excitement and like a 3 for nerves, and now I'm a 10 for both.
I agree.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So we're doing our job, Matt, aren't we?
Yeah. Look, there's nothing to be nervous about. I mean, what could possibly go wrong with everyone that's around the place? You know, you'll be fine. Absolutely fine.
That's right.
Yeah, we've definitely got a lot of support around the whole coast community. Has been awesome. So yeah, we definitely know what you mean. It's been wicked.
Yeah. Well, it
just makes for a better story as well. The worse it goes. So don't worry, there's still get something out of that as well.
Yeah, it's all about experience. All right, take it away, Rich.
Yeah, good stuff. Hey, what this has been on your bucket list for a while. I've been stalking your Instagram posts and bits and pieces. What actually sparked your interest initially to say, right, we're going to have a crack at this coast to coast thing?
I'll take this one, shall I, Nick? I feel like it'd be hard to grow up in New Zealand and not know about the coast to coast. You know, it's such an iconic event, and it's hard to imagine it not being on anyone's bucket list, but maybe most people just aren't sort of as into type 2 fun as us. I think for me, it's been on my radar for basically as long as I can remember. I remember Mum back in high school talking about, you know, oh, you should enter into it as a team with some of your mates. But I think I'd always sort of parked it and thought, no, that's for crazy fit people, and I'm not one of those. And then a couple of years ago, another of our colleagues asked if I'd ever be keen to do it. And I kind of thought, well, I guess without a whole lot of hard work, I could never become one of those, you know, super fit people. So I might as well put the work in and give it a crack.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Whose idea was it to enter this Kathmandu coast to coast thing? So, Nicole?
Well, Richard, that's a very, very good question.
I want to know this question.
This year, Soph went and did the mountain run, and she came back to work and she was just absolutely fizzing, as she is, the type 2 person that she is. And she was just so super excited to do the whole thing for next year in a team. And so I wished her all the best, and I said, oh, you know, good luck finding a teammate. You'll be fine. It'll be such good fun for you. And then she kind of replied and said, oh, well, actually, I was kind of hoping that you might be my teammate. So my first reaction was actually just, I laughed at her. But after I kind of contemplated it for probably about a week, maybe a couple of weeks, Soph put the carrot out of let's go for a coffee and chat about it. I kind of, came around to the idea, and it's been, no looking back since then. We've been full steam ahead. It's been wicked.
How good. So you just tried not to respond for a start, just ignored her, but she kept coming back.
She's pretty persistent, are we, Soph?
So good. Hey, could you both of us tell us a little bit more about your background? What do you do for work? What have you done in the past? What sort of led you to this place? Soph, do you want to kick off?
Yeah, so we're both teachers. Nick mostly we're at the same school. Nick's mostly with the intermediates, and I do those students and then a few older ones as well. And so that's how we know each other. And then I think, Nick, you'd think we're a fairly sporty pair between us?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Soph's got her hockey and then all her other sporting adventure commitments. A wee ski bunny, and she, if you're not hitting the road on your bike, you're up in the hills running around. So she's constantly kind of got adventure as her middle name. I've always grown up round team sport, so netball, volleyball, bit of korfball in the last few years. So there's been a few.
You for a second, Nick? She says a bit of korfball. I'd point out that Nicole's actually in the national team. So when she says she's doing a bit of a sport, she is an absolute gun.
Okay, right. Okay, yes. Okay, that's good to know.
There's a little bit there, and I guess there's been the odd. I've had 2 or 3 half marathons under my belt, but that's probably the extent of my, endurance-based sport. So I'm always up for a challenge, and this is kind of where I guess this has stemmed from. Once Soph planted that seed, I couldn't kind of get it out of my head, and so now we've been hooked since then.
Yeah, cool. So good. So where are you at with your training and sort of learning the skills? Because the thing about say coast to coast, opposed to say maybe other events like running or maybe even a triathlon, is that you've got to learn to keep your boat upright. You've got to learn to paddle, and often we don't grow up learning to paddle kayaks. But also the mountain run isn't just a run. You've got to have some mountain skills and ability to sort of be comfortable there. And then also the biking, actually riding with others and all that sort of stuff. So there's a lot going on there. Where are you guys at with that whole skill development side of things?
Yeah, I've definitely been relying very heavily on Soph because she's far more experienced in this area than me. Once we first decided that we were going to do it, we joined the Arawa Canoe Club. So we've been down there a fair bit, experimenting with our kayak skills, both in the tandem and in some singles. And so we're starting to feel a lot more confident, I would say, on the flat water. However, our arms are pretty burning after about a 10K paddle, so we're not quite sure how the full kayak experience will go, but we'll keep persisting there. I guess with winter and our biking, we've been doing quite a bit more riding inside. I've been lucky. My dad has donated his wind trainer, so I've got that set up in the lounge. Sophie's got her set up in the garage, so we've got our Swift memberships going strong, and they're getting quite the workout, and we're trying to work on the hills as much as we can. And as it gets a bit warmer, heading out into spring and summer, we'll try and get back out on the roads and do a bit more of that bunch riding that you were talking about, because obviously that's that'll be a new experience for both of us, but definitely something that we need to learn as we go through this process.
Brilliant. Fantastic.
We've been so aware of needing to build those specific skills, whereas probably the running in some ways has been the easiest one. We've both done quite a bit of running. I have grown up my whole life doing lots of tramping and have started getting quite into trail running. So I think that's in some ways been the easiest skill to develop, because it's perhaps slightly less specific than, trying not to lock handlebars with your neighbour or tip out of a kayak.
Yeah. Speaking of tipping out of a kayak, have you had any sort of epic fails, or maybe we'll call it challenges so far in terms of your training?
We haven't fallen out of a kayak yet, but
Not
I did
yet.
come embarrassingly close the other night.
Okay.
Actually.
Yep.
I wasn't there to see that one. I think one of the biggest challenges I've found, firstly, was injuries. As I've kind of alluded to, I am a little bit behind the 8 ball if we compare Soph and I's fitness abilities. So I've kind of had that feeling of playing catch up for since we've made this decision. And so I kind of made the terrible decision of just, let's try and do everything. And so my body was like, nope, that's not a good idea. So I kind of learnt the hard way for the first few weeks that actually it's slow and steady and build up into it. And I guess, now a few months later, I'm kind of seeing those results of doing that and doing the smart training. That was probably one of the biggest challenges that I've found.
Yeah, no, that's right. And that goes across the board. There'll be lots of people having the same sort of issue. And because we do often think that this event's going to take us 16, 18, 20 hours or so to do, we need to train for that. But actually, it's just a matter of getting that foundation right first before we go too deep. But yeah, it's all part of the learning and part of the development and part of the fun of it. What have you got lined up over the next month or so? Because we're going to catch up with you in about a month's time. So we'll be able to share this back to you. So whatever you say now is quite important.
Well, we were meant to be doing the Tekabo half marathon next weekend, but unfortunately that's been postponed until December. So event wise, it's a bit tricky, with the current COVID situation. The next thing in our we're heading to, that's sort of the big event we're heading up to. Yeah, and then we've got our grade 2 kayak course, which is locked in for early October. So
yeah, fantastic. You just broke up there when you said the event. Which was the event that you were heading up to?
Sorry, that was the Wanaka Multi. So we'll actually try our hand at putting events together for the first time, which could be quite challenging.
No,
good fun.
Fantastic. Yeah, good job. That's brilliant. Nice work. That's really good. And in terms of the goal for race day, what is the goal? What do we want to try and achieve? Is it actually I just want to try and finish and still be friends, or how are you going to I guess classify success for you guys?
I think we've sort of been going with a mantra of complete, not compete, but obviously we want to go out there and do our absolute best. And I think as long as we come off the course and we know that we've both given it our all, we'll be happy with whatever result that leads to. Obviously, if anything miraculous happened, that would be awesome. But really, we just want to go out there and have an awesome time.
Yeah, good.
I'm going to ask you that same question: compete or complete? At about Aiken's Corner, when you're coming off the bike all fired up and you've got 30 k's of running in front of you. But no, that'd be cool. So day 2 has a 15k bike ride and a 70k paddle and a 70k bike ride. So I want to know, when you're going to start your finish line sprint, how far out?
100 k's out, give or take.
When I can see it.
Okay, that's interesting, isn't it? It's a very good comment. So one just sort of getting towards the end of the gorge is where the sprint's going to happen. The other one's going to be happening about, I don't know, 15 metres from the finish line.
Yeah, that's mostly downhill. Once you get on the boat, it's all mostly downhill, except for the bits that aren't. But no, well done, you two. We really look forward to seeing your progress over the next few months. Again, this is the cool thing about this event. There's so much experience around. There's so many people that are free to kind of give their time and experience, and just to see people like yourselves get out there and get into it. So go well for race day, and we'll see you at start line.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us.
Cool. See you later.
Cheers. Good job, mate. Well done. You pushed the buttons well tonight.
Thank you. You've done pretty well yourself. It's pretty cool, isn't it? I mean, we're still months away from this event, but just being the 40th year, and people, you just get amped up, don't you? It doesn't matter how far you're out. As soon as that kind of buzz of the Kathmandu Coast to Coast starts up, then it just is like a big kind of tornado, isn't it? Or a big vortex that you just kind of get sucked into. It doesn't matter how far you're going to stay away from it, it'll get you.
That's right. September 1, springtime is a really good time to sort of start that. And I also so often talk about training like winter's a time to work on the things you're not so good at. And then maybe springtime's the time to start to bring everything together again. So so that's sort of time to maybe get the boat wet now, as we're able to, as we come out of level 4, and then sort of just bring things together a little bit more. So, and then thinking forward to that, we'll talk about this down the track, is kind of that November, December. Let's start getting really coast to coast specific, but it's a matter of timing your run so you're not toast by the time you get to Christmas. But just start thinking about sort of putting all those disciplines together.
That's right, and it's, you don't have to be going out running 40 k's a week or any of those sorts of silly things. Just go out and run, 2 or 3 times a week, pretty easy. Start thinking about what gear works well for you. Try running in a jacket, or what sort of pack have you got, or those sorts of things that you don't want to have those things uncomfortable when you're heading out for 6 hours over Goat Pass, or those sorts of things. You can do them in the backyard. So yeah, really cool. Even what Rob was saying about go out paddle and some small surf and those sorts of things. Just use what you can around the place. I guess as multi-sport athletes, we don't like smooth roads, so don't run on them. If you just go out for a run around your neighbourhood, jump up on the curb or jump up on a seat, or those sorts of things, because they're the really simple skills you can build in your own backyard without going too far from home. And just build up slowly, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. Support crew, with the COVID situation, we had a whole bunch of Australians that were helping out. So if you need help with support crew, we've actually got some more availability now. So get in touch with us if you want to know a little bit more about that. If you want to know more about our Coast to Coast Skills Day, flick us a message. We can help you out with that as well. And basically to wrap up the show, a massive thanks to Joe, Rob, Sophie and Nicole, and yourself, Matt, for joining us and sort of sharing insights and knowledge around the event. Really cool to have, as you say, people willing to share. So make sure you look after yourself and each other, especially with this whole COVID thing going on. Keep an eye on each other in terms of how everybody's doing. And really looking forward to catching you in a month's time for the next Coast to Coast podcast, and ultimately at the start line.
Yep, will do. And you keep all your athletes in check, Rich, and I'll be there to kind of, again, ask questions. I'm sure we'll come up in this pod chat again between now and Coast to Coast time, probably more on the support side of things. But again, more than happy to help out on everything that goes with this race before, during and after. So thanks for your time, and we'll wrap it up and we'll see you in the next show.
Good job. Well done. Cheers, Matt. Thank you.
See you. Over and out.
It's the best Kiwi event in New Zealand, this. Crossing New Zealand in 1 or 2 days.
Why do I do it? Because I love it.
3, 2,